Thokozani, Hotep Royals, Thokozani, Hotep Royals. How is everyone doing? Thokozani, Hotep Royals, Hotep, how is everyone doing? Do kindly tap the screen so that this goes up in the algorithm and we can have a few more people. So go ahead and keep tapping the screen, tap. If you can hear me, please tap the screen yet again because I don't know if you can hear me. Please tap the screen if you are able to hear me. Thokoza, is it Gaba? Thokoza, Queen Mother, I see you. I see some regulars here. Thokozeni. And I would say Grand Solstice to Bagwantu. Those of us aligned with the Southern Hemisphere, it is the summer solstice. Grand Solstice. That is our celebration, not this whole mess that's happening currently over in this part of the world. Please, Thokozeni, Hotep. So, family, I wanted us to talk about the 4th season in the Afrikan Calendar calendar month. The 4th season, which is a very important season. Many of you have been going through the Ancestor series with me. We have Ancestors part 1 to 5 on YouTube that I did do here. If you missed that, go ahead and go to YouTube. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. And we are going to talk about the goddess or the electromagnetic energy or the frequency, if you like, of Nept-Het. Now, Nept-Het is in the 4th season of our African calendar. We do not use the word months because we do not follow the Gregorian calendar in terms of how we put the seasons. We name them as seasons as confirmed by nature, right? I've explained this over and over again. The first season, of course, is September, which is marked by the spring equinox in the Southern Hemisphere. How do we confirm what season and what energy is there? We see it in nature. It is the beginning. And so that is when we have the energy of Asa, right? So now we're in the 4th month and we're dealing with the goddess Nept-Het. In isiZulu, she is called Umvikeligazi. What does that mean? The protector. And so in this in the Kemetic story or the ancient African story of who and what this particular energy, it's a divine feminine energy, and she's considered the sister to Aset, who gave birth to Heru, and then Heru, she was the protector. She was given Heru to take care of and to nurture, and very, very protective. This is the current energy that is prevailing. Now, I mentioned that she's important at this time as we were doing the Ancestor series because she's also connected with funerary rites or the rites of passage after death. And she's considered the comforter and protector of souls that have transitioned right into the ethereal realm. So it becomes very important to understand this energy and to understand it from that ancestral perspective, which is that not only is she protecting newborns right now as they are growing, she's also protecting those who have passed on to the other realm. And she sort of protects and guides them on their way, right, to their final kind of destination as spirit, which is the ethereal realm. So she's actually a very, very important deity. She's an important energy. And we always say we live by this calendar. And so there are things that I'd like to share with you from the calendar. If you don't have one, I don't know what you're doing, because as Christians have their Bible, we have our unifier, our unitary point, which is this African calendar, which is our spirituality, and we live based on this. So there are certain things that we have that connect us, with Nept-Het. Number one is royal blue, right? Royal blue is her color. You will often find her depicted in royal blue, right? Her metal is silver. So I might just have to change up a lot of my jewelry because I love gold. But for the season, I do have silver, so I might just, start doing the silver jewelry, right? Her incense is called Lily of the Valley. So if you want to connect with her in a special way, you can have that incense Lily of the Valley. Also, it is a good incense to have if you are trying to connect with somebody who has transitioned. I'm not talking, or not even connect, but, elevate somebody who's just recently transitioned, because again, she's the energy surrounding the newly transitioned currently, right? Then her perfume is lotus, right? Her tree is the willow tree, and her animals are the eagle, the vulture, the turtle, the tortoise, and the dolphin. So that's her in a nutshell. So how do we use this energy currently? What is this energy? One of the things that happens when our ancestors transition, and we teach this in African spirituality a lot, is that the passing of somebody, the transitioning, is not death. In African spirituality, we don't fear death because we know that it is not the end. Energy can neither be created nor destroyed. So your spirit, which is energy, just goes back to the ethereal realm, and this, your physical body, is what is shed. And so one of the things that is important in spirituality to understand is we mourn our dead differently. Right? We don't mourn them with that sense of fatality that, oh my God, excuse me, they've gone and we'll never see them again. We mourn the loss of this physicality, but we celebrate that transition. Because death, remember, is a rite of passage. The way birth is a rite of passage. The way passing maybe from toddlerhood to teenagehood is a rite of passage. Throughout our lives in African spirituality, there are a series of rites of passage that we go through all the way to adulthood, all the way to the part where you are now called an elder, which is also a rite of passage. And then you transition on to the ancestral through death, which is a portal and a rite of passage. So the fatalistic, this person is gone and you go into depression, really, yes, you miss the physicality of that person. But because we are ancestral people who connect with our ancestors, we know that after a certain period and we've done certain rituals for said ancestors, we can now connect with them. So really, there's no loss, if you think about it. I often have clients who come and who are like, my mom passed away so-and-so and I miss her. I'm like, okay, I hear you, you miss her. Why aren't you connecting with her? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, why aren't you talking to your mom and have your mom talk back to you? Your mom's there. So I want us to elevate our consciousness so that we stop functioning in this 3D and staying stuck in the 3D, because that is where everything kind of starts to stagnate. So when you understand this energy of Nept-Het as a nurturer and comforter of those who are mourning those who've passed on, she's the energy of comfort. So not only does she help and protect transitioned souls, she also stays behind to comfort those of us who are left mourning. Does that make sense? She's a very, very powerful, very protective energy. Matter of fact, I want to put her in that same bracket with Sekhmet in terms of being very protective. She's protective of widows, very protective of young mothers, very protective of those who are of the divine feminine, who kind of feel stranded. And this brings to mind the single mother, right? Or the single parent. Nept-Het is your friend. Nept-Het is your source of strength, your source of comfort. Remember, she was given young Heru to take care of. And she did that single-handedly. And she's very protective of that sort of unit at the time. You know, she nurtured and protected young Heru. And so if somebody were to say, okay, as a single mom, taking care of my children by myself, who do I try to connect with to get any sort of assistance? I would say Nept-Het. I would say Nept-Het is who to speak with or to communicate with as your children are leaving the house to go to school. Right? She's protector of the young. Nept-Het is who I would, if, for example, your kids have to take off on a holiday to go and be, say, with their dad's side of the family or with the mom's side of the family. I know mothers, we are very protective of our children. You might get that sense that I can't go there, but who do I commission to go and accompany my children? You commission Mother Nept-Het to do that for you. So we have a way of practicalizing our spirituality so that we are living it, so that this is not just kind of some theory that sits in this book. We actually live this practice. So this season, you will find that most of us who are part of the great empire of Kemet and others, we will wear royal blue because it is her color. And so what do these connection tools do? These connection tools, this particular fragrance, this particular incense, this particular stone, this particular metal, this particular color, they reach the frequency at which you connect easier with Nept-Het. Color remembers a frequency. Metal has its own frequency. So those are all connection tools you can use to enhance your connection with Nept-Het. So for somebody like me who has a whole altar with all the Neteru, at this particular time, I pay special attention to Nept-Het, and I try, I mean, there are no trees over here right now that have leaves, but if, for example, I was in a place where there were willow trees, I would make sure that I always had a fresh willow in a vase, right? Fragrance-wise, I haven't found lotus, but one day I will find the lotus fragrance. That will be the fragrance I will wear throughout that entire month. The jewelry is easy. I have silver jewelry, sacred jewelry, not just any jewelry, that I can wear to help with my connection. I have my blue cloth. I have a lot of royal blue ancestral cloths as well. I just make sure that for this season, that is what I am putting on myself, and that helps me with my consciousness even as I get dressed on a daily basis to stay in that space of spirituality as I put on my royal blue. As I go and pick out my royal blue to put on, it immediately gets me into that framework of how I'm going to move and be and present myself in the world. How am I going to show up as a spiritual woman, right? So I just thought I'd come and share that with you guys just to deepen our understanding. Now, in terms of what else can I share with you that comes to mind that we can put to practical use? Yeah, so rebirth, right? We know that, like I said, death is a transition. Death is a rite of passage, right? So with any rite of passage, it's like there's a death and a rebirth, right? Meaning to say that when you enter that spiritual realm, it's like you're reborn, but as spirit. And so your journey transforms, right? That's where the rebirth, your journey transforms because you're no longer encumbered by this physical body. And then you journey to wherever you're going to. Those who've watched the Ancestral series, I've tried to outline the places or the spaces that a soul goes through and goes to until they reach the ancestral realm. I've also tried to share with you some of the pitfalls on that journey. So it's very important that if you were burying someone, and you can do this at any time of the year because this is her job, is the protection of the dead. Those of you who do funerary rites, unfortunately, it's all lost. But at the Great Empire of Kemet, we actually bury our own using the funerary rites of ancient African ancestors. So we bury in a very different way. And so we know which neteru or which energies or which gods and goddesses govern that process of movement from death to burial and to the transition and the journey onward. So we also commission these neteru to protect these spirits as they move along, because it is known and understood that in the spiritual realm there are light and dark forces. Are you hearing me? Our ancestors knew this. So this is why using these universal principles or energies or gods and goddesses, if you like, to guide that process and to make sure it is a protected process until that soul or spirit reaches its final destination is very important. Unfortunately, all that is lost. That is why it is very easy for people to steal spirits so that they can use them for nefarious activities. Ukutwebula in isiZulu. That is why it's very easy to coax a spirit to say, you come and sit in my skubu and work for me so I can make a bunch of money. Because we have lost the proper funerary rites of passage, and we have lost that connection and the knowledge of what to do and what to say as we are burying somebody. We're burying most people in that religious way, which means nothing in the African ancestral realm. That's why I've said before that there's a lot of work that people are having to do for their ancestors, because we can't call them that, for their ancestors who died or who transitioned Christian. Lot of work to do. And like I always say, one of the first things you need to do is to apologize on their behalf for having called their elders demons. Yes, so there's the first ones. And for denouncing their own ancestors, for the ancestors of white people, because that's all that is in the Bible. Everyone in the Bible is an ancestor, but not yours. You're not related to them. So it's a way of us coming back to what is essential and what is real and authentic to us as African people. And this is the work that this calendar actually does for you. So we are into the season of Nept-Het. I will come again. There are always teachings downloading about Nept-Het and her role, ways to practicalize this. So if I hear something, you will see me once again. I will come knocking and we can have a conversation about Nept-Het. I always mean to do the conversations around the Neteru in their season. But the problem with me is that sometimes I am told, go and teach about X. And that's what I then have to do. So I hope that was helpful on Nept-Het, umvikelikazi. I think in Sesotho is msireletsi. I don't know if msireletsi means umvikelikazi. I can't remember in Sesotho, but I definitely know that in isiZulu it is umvikelikazi. She's also protector of the royals. Remember, we've just had the lotus ceremony. The lotus ceremony is Zibu, Mkosi weZibu, which is really the ceremony or celebration of royals, hence the royal blue, right? Because December is known in the African cosmology and African spirituality in the African context, all over the continent, it is known as the month of the royals. And so this month falls in her season, and she's also known as a protector of the throne. If I'm not mistaken, I think she is the one who's often depicted with a throne on her head. I'm going to look up the pictures. But yes, so she's also protector of the royals and the royal house. So she and by protector meaning the royal house, remember, is a representation of what is in the cosmos. It is a representation of umvelinqangi unomkhubulwane, which is Asa and Aset. Right? That is that cosmic representation, the sun and the moon, Asa and Aset, is what is replicated here on earth in the royal house. And Nept-Het stands as protector of that royal house and who stands as protector of that balance of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. So I think in the next one, we will talk about that. What role then does she play in terms of the protection of the relationship between the divine masculine and the divine feminine? Because right about now, we need a lot of protection. Can I get a yoop yoop? We do. We do. And you see, that relationship, and I said that in my last teaching, that relationship, the divine masculine, divine feminine, is the key to the success of the Black family. Whether we like it or not, I often don't like hearing that, but I am astute enough to know that whether I like it or not doesn't really matter, but that's just the fact. The Black nation won't survive very long if that relationship between the divine masculine and the divine feminine doesn't come right. So next, we're going to talk about how Nept-Het can assist and facilitate that relationship. Somebody's saying, will you be talking about Ma'at? Yes, in Ma'at season, we will talk about Ma'at. If you want to read about her by yourself here, get you a calendar book and you can go ahead and read about her. But because we live this, right, and I've lived several cycles of the whole thing, right? We live it. So I tend to teach about these principles as they come in and to give people practical ways in which they can incorporate this beautiful knowledge into their own lives so that you become the real person that you are supposed to be, right? On that note, I say Thokozani, Tobelani, Kwaziwai, Hotep, Hotep Royals, and see you on the next one.